Hey, guys, this episode is brought to you by TeePublic. You guys know TeePublic. I've been with TeePublic forever, since the Schmodown days, since the big thing launched. If you have a Sith Council shirt, if you have any of our shirts, you got them from TeePublic. From over the years, we've been working with TeePublic. When I went out on my own, they were one of the first calls that I made. So not only can you get all of the branded merch from this show, t-shirts, stickers, phone cases, mugs, all that, when you are on the site, do a search. You're going to discover something that you like, especially in this space, man. An artist uploads new work to the TeePublic marketplace every 5 seconds. Because of the thousands of global artists that populate the marketplace, you're going to find designs you won't find at a big box store, especially if your interests are super niche. Doesn't matter what you're into, you can find it on TeePublic. You want a graphic tee of a cat riding a unicorn? Check. A t-shirt with your favorite movie quote? Got it. You want merch for the big thing? Hey, that's what you want, obviously. I've been using TeePublic forever. If you guys know me from back in the day, I've been talking about them that long. So it was obvious that I was going to be using them again, and I'm so glad that I did. So many of you guys, when I see you at some of the events, you're wearing the big thing shirts, and it all comes from TeePublic. And browse around on my link. It's going to be in the iCard right there. It's going to be in the description right there. Browse around. You will find stuff that you like. So I'm happy that they're on the show. They're sponsoring the show now. TeePublic, everybody. Check them out. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the big thing. Sith Council, man. Nothing to see here. I guess nothing really happened on this week. That's BS to capital B. Ahsoka, episode 5. It was eventful, to say the least. I have a lot of questions. I love the episode, but I have a lot of questions. And this week, I know everybody's waiting to see if Mike is going to hate this episode. We're going to have to wait until next week because he's not here, and neither Steph. Steph will be back when the strike's over. That's the question I can answer. However, the good news is that I love saying this. The guy who whooped on Mike Kalinowski's ass in the Schmodown a couple different times. The last movie trivia Schmodown Inner Geekdom champion of the world, Kevin Smets. You know him from John Roca's The Jedi Way and Scoundrels Inc. Well, he's coming in here to talk to me because I had him on the show first before anybody else did. Oh, I didn't say that, Roca. Roca's steam coming out of his ears. I love you. But we're going to talk about everything inside of the Ahsoka episode 5 episode. That makes sense. It is spoiler heavy. There's a lot of things going on in this one. I did a reaction to it. I did an immediate reaction to it. Shout out to the great Nerd Chronic for editing that the reaction watch along that I did. And if you're brand new to the channel, man, we just hit 92,000 subscribers. And that's because you guys, when you come in here, you see us with the short form content, long form, shorter videos in general, podcasts, all of it. Subscribe to the channel, help us out, show a little class, just an ounce. All right, without any further ado, let's get to it. It is the Sith Council, big thing. Me, Kevin Smets. Let's do it.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
All right, Sith Council, everybody, as I said. And joining me on the show, the one and only Mr. Kevin Smets. Very nice. Look at that. What is that? Is that Revan? Oh, you muted. See, I love digital so much. I love it. It's the best.
I'm not muted. I'm not muted at all.
No, you're not anymore. It wasn't your fault. That was my fault. What's up? How are you? What's going on?
Well, you can't have a Sith Council without, the greatest Sith of all time, also that redeemed the light, and that would be Mr. Darth Revan. Yeah, that's a Revan mask. How you doing, Kristian? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. That does bring sadness to my heart, though, because I told you, I said it on a short, and I think I said to you, I don't think we're ever going to see a Knights of the Old Republic ever, which is a bummer to me. But that's a topic for another day, I guess.
You sure are going to see it because it's on RevanTrilogy.com. You can see all the movies. I just did a new release of all the movies combined. You could watch all of my Revan KOTOR movies right there on Smash City Studios.
Well, that's very true. That's very true. But when it comes to actual canon stuff and everything, too, I don't know if we're ever going to see it. I think it's a travesty. However, that's not what we're talking about today. Talking about this episode, man. This was well, I didn't even talk to you about it. I was literally texting you to see if you wanted to come on this show. I think like 1 minute before the episode dropped. So if you noticed when you were texting me, you got radio silence when 6 o'clock hit.
Yeah, I was like, hey, what? I sent you a picture of my Kira, and I was like, what do you think of this picture? And you never wrote back, so I figured it was Star Wars time.
Yeah, it's
Dude,
beautiful, by the way.
blown
Yeah,
away by the episode for sure. What do you
yeah,
think, man?
I loved it. I really did it. I have questions. I mean, I have a lot of questions, but I mean, so, and this is what this was where I go back to a conversation that I had with Mike last week, and I always push back against people who say, "Don't speculate, don't speculate. Just take what they give you. Just watch the show. Don't speculate." I think it is the most self-righteous, like just arrogant point of view for people to say that, because I think that the proper thing to say is speculate responsible. If
Yeah.
you speculate and it doesn't go your way, don't be a douche about it. Don't say, "Oh, it should have been like this. You should have been." You can say, "I was disappointed, didn't go that particular way, but I was wrong, and I watched the show, and they did that instead." And the perfect example for me, I thought this entire episode, Kev, I thought it was going to be the whole thing was going to be World Between Worlds. I thought we were just going to get a whole bunch of different kind of flashbacks throughout the episode, and we didn't get that, and it served the story better. It actually furthered the plot. So
Yeah, it's funny, like with expectations. I remember I'm a big, I've always been a spoiler guy. You know this. I text you whenever you go to movie premieres. I'll be like, hey, man, I
yeah,
got one question for you. Um, and I remember, I mean, this is back in the days of the Force.net. I remember when it was rumored that NSYNC was on the set of Attack of the Clones. I remember seeing leaked footage of Anakin twirling his saber on
yeah,
a Geonosis thing. So, like, I go way back. But I remember The Last Jedi, they leaked footage of the Fathiers, those horse things
yeah. The Harry
on
Potter
Canto
horse.
Bight.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I remember, to me, it looked like Onderon. And to me, in my brain, I was like, it's gonna start with a crawl saying that that Luke's been training with Rey. It's gonna pan down on Onderon, and we're gonna have this opening adventure, Padawan, and you know what I mean? Like, you have
yeah,
these expectations.
yeah.
And when it didn't happen, I'm a little different than you. I actually like that movie, but my expectations weren't met. So again, there were other leaks too, which I think we're freely able to say here, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But like, they were talking about that there was footage shot of Ahsoka and Anakin fighting on Mustafar, and that the whole point was on World Between Worlds, he was going to show her that no matter what she did, his destiny was always the same, and her destiny will always be the same. Well,
Right.
it wasn't quite that. It was a little different than that. But like, for me, like you said, like, if you're able to have those expectations, and if it doesn't hit, you're like, oh, well, we didn't get that, but we got all of this. I'm a happy camper. I was smiling ear to ear the whole time, man.
And you're also able to be disappointed if you look at something and you say, "Oh, I thought it would have been so much better, if it went there, it didn't." And you can choose to either keep watching it or not, right? And it's like but you're allowed to say, "Oh, in my head, I would have loved to have seen this. I was disappointed." Who
Yeah.
cares if I'm disappointed and you're not? It's like, it's what, like, again, if you're like, "This show sucks because it should have done this," well, then you're in the wrong. Then you're in the
Yeah.
wrong. And that's what a lot of people do. And I think that's where a lot of people will say it. But and the other thing now that is becoming so overused, it worked at times, but now it's just like it's almost like a thing where people just feel like they're so like, "Tell them, Steve, Dave." And it's the thing where they do the "Nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans." And it's like it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, I get it when it comes to the event. There's so many people that are so toxic when it comes to
Yeah.
fandom in everything, whether it's DC, Star Wars, Marvel, all of it. It is, but it's like but now it's just overused and beaten. If somebody has a criticism on something and said, "Oh, it would have been interesting if this happens instead of that," nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
And it's like, just find
That's
something
the
new.
that's the equivalent of when people used to say after the prequels, "Oh, George Lucas raped my childhood." Like,
Right.
all the original trilogy fans hating on the prequels. And to segue, now it's funny. Like, no one has, like, I saw a tweet about it where, like, no one has eaten better at the table than
Total.
prequel fans. Like, you
Total.
got the Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Clone Wars, Anakin. Like, I'm happy for that, and I'm super happy for Hayden. What do you think? I think this is probably the best Anakin acting for Hayden out of all of it.
A
Like,
100%. And I actually said it in my reaction when I was watching. But let's rewind a little bit, because what I want to do is
sure.
I actually want to go. I'm going to show images and kind of go through the episode itself. And the reason I brought all that stuff up with the fact that I thought it was going to be start right away from World Between Worlds, and it doesn't. It starts
Yeah.
back on that planet, and it goes through, and it's just like this. It's just kind of like a wasteland. It's not wasteland, but it's just empty, and it's such a great shot, sequence of shots by Filoni, who directed and wrote the episode. But it just starts as like this, the red trees, and then you get it kind of panning to the ocean, where this is where the majority of this episode is taking place, to find out wherever the hell Ahsoka is at this point. And it's just so quiet. And as we get to this, all the shots, the shot of where the map was, and have this big battle, and there was so much activity happening in this spot, and it's just like, it's almost like the old westerns where you're just waiting for that dust ball to kind of come by, because it's like, it's so quiet. And I thought it was a really daunting way to open.
It reminded me of is, and I know that, I mean, obviously when we get into the Ahsoka the White stuff,
yeah,
for me, I'm just like, all right, relax, everybody. But the Filoni loves, like, Lord of the Rings, and like even did that sketch of Ahsoka and Gandalf when people are asking during Rise of Skywalker, is Ahsoka alive? And he just drew this sketch of Gandalf with Ahsoka. But the opening of Two Towers, if you remember, they show these majestic shots of the mountain, and you hear just faint echoes of the "You shall not pass" and everything that was happening with Gandalf when he fell. And I got goosebumps when I just think about it. I got vibes of that he was showing what you just said, where this was chaos not minutes ago. Now it's empty, and it's just almost like a graveyard of memories. And you see the broken map and everything like that. And then you finally like end on, the ocean or whatever. That reminded me of the Two Towers, and I was like, "Oh man, we're going all in with this Gandalf stuff." Which, like I said, I think it's funny that everybody's calling her Ahsoka the White, because I don't think that's what she'll be, but I think that'll be her internet term. But it is kind of funny that like people were saying, "Well, we'll get it there." But yeah, well, I enjoyed that opening.
And isn't it funny though that Filoni, by doing that, kind of breaks canon a little bit? Because in the prologue of Rebels, which was supposed to be before this event, she's wearing the white when she sees Sabine.
Well, maybe we haven't seen that yet. I mean, this is what
we did.
Maybe we see it. No, but maybe they do it again where now she's in her white apparel.
No, it's the same moment.
But here's the thing about the Ahsoka the White stuff. She didn't like get reborn and then be given like this new robe. Like, she probably just went into her wardrobe on the Ghost or whatever they had on the Ghost. They're like, "Hey, we got this like off-white thing," and she's like, "Oh, this looks pretty cool." Like, what I mean? She was like, she was at J.C. Penney or Nordstrom. Like, "Oh, there's the new thing on the rack." I don't think it was like, "Now I'll wear all white." But yes,
it's the symbolism behind it, to where she's never been really teetering on the dark side, but she's been in between the whole time. So it's more like that kind of gray thing. Now she's clearly stepped into the light. She's seen the balance of the Force. She's chose the actual path, and we'll get into that. But as we see, this land as it's coming through, and in the first bit of action that we finally see to kind of put some life back into this place that's quiet, are the X-Wings kind of flying over, and then Hera gets out, and she's doing like the scan. She doesn't know what to expect. The last she saw was the freaking the big ring destroying everybody, and so she doesn't know what to expect down in this. She doesn't know where her friends are. She doesn't know any of that.
Yeah, and Hera just is such nailed as a character. My wife has been watching it with me. She hasn't seen this one. We're gonna watch it tonight, but she immediately was like, "Dude, these characters are so like likable," that we started laughing. Like, she's like, she loves Hera. We love Hu Yang. We love Jacen. We love like these characters, and we were like, you know what? Ahsoka is kind of like the Ted Lasso of Star Wars, because like even the villains we like. I love Balin, right? Like, I would follow Balin. Whatever he wants me to do, I'll do it. Aside from slaughtering younglings, but like. We were talking about how but Hera and like just that care, like the family vibe. You kind of get that vibe from Guardians of the Galaxy, that they were like this misfit became family, and it's like they'll do anything for Ezra, they'll do anything for each other, and the desperation on Hera, and it's just great. And you can see Kanan live action. I'm wondering, you're buddies with him, is if Freddie Prinze took a photo and that is Freddie Prinze, or if that's just a blurred out CGI Kanan Jarrus from AI art or something. But it's on the dash, like you get
No, I don't. I'll tell you what, they're gonna blur it out as much as they possible, because I don't think Freddie has any interest in having anything to do with Star Wars anymore. I don't think he has any interest of having his face represented from it. I don't think he's watching anything. I just don't think he's. I think he's done. Wow. I just think he's done. But that's not to say that you can't be slick about it. Whether you say you make it an AI thing, or whether you do and some people had a picture of like it was him and I guess his wife were on like a red carpet, and it was very similar to it. And you can blur it, and if you can't really prove it, you know,
be careful, because remember the Back to the Future thing with Crispin Glover. Didn't he try to like sue the filmmakers because they had like a lookalike and they hung him upside down for a bad back?
That's a lot different. That's a lot different because you're not you have someone's face. So if you turn it over, you're looking at someone's face, right? But this is a picture of like it resembles Freddy because it resembles the character. Hell, it could have been a stunt double that looked like him. So they want to. That's not something that I think Freddy's going to go. Wait a minute. Plus, you know, who knows? I think people are like, oh, wait a minute, Freddy's going to come back in a vision. Freddy ain't coming back. No chance. There's that you got a better chance of Revan showing up in the next episode than you have Freddie Prinze Jr. showing him as Kanan. Now, who knows if Kanan will show up, but it ain't going to be Freddy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there was a lot of those types of references, but the first thing that happens, and I like how they got Jacen involved, by the way. Jacen had the possibility, if not done correctly, to be very annoying. He's not annoying. Yeah. You can tell, you know, I don't know if anyone has trained him. I don't love the fact that when he's like, Mom, I hear something. She knows who his dad was. She knows he's got something going on. Don't do the whole cliche of like, nah, I don't know what you hear, kid. It's like he probably hears something because he's got some Jedi in him.
Do you think that when she starts hearing it too, is she playing like when my daughter comes into the room, like as a T-Rex, like I act like I'm in fear and I run away from the T-Rex, right? Do you think that's Hera playing with her son, or do you think Hera started hearing whispers of the Force and the lightsaber? Because now we're in this era where everybody can access the Force almost, you know?
I hope not. I hope that it's the first part of it to where she just trusts him, says, okay, you know what, there's something I can feel, like something, I don't know what it is. I can't hear what you're hearing, but I believe you. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like that trust is there because yes, it's in everyone. It doesn't mean everyone can access it, because the same thing, like Sabine's having problems accessing it. Right. So we're going to have Hera start accessing it too. It's like, no, it's this episode of the gallery that they do is going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, like when the full breakdown of this entire episode, that's one I think it's going to be very viewed. But Jacen comes out, and he even says, can I browse around a little bit? Can I check out what's going on? She's like, yeah, but stay close. And him and Chopper are walking around. I love the use of Chopper. Then she's like, stay back because I hear something. And she starts walking over and she sees Hu Yang holding the helmet. And I got a moment here of, do you remember, are you a big Never Ending Story guy?
Yes, with the Nothing and the crazy wolf that scared me for my childhood. Yeah.
But remember when the Nothing took out everything, and then I think it's Atreyu comes across the big rock monster.
Yes.
He's like, these hands were in my hands. And it was like, it reminded me of that moment where he's just like, I told them to listen and they didn't listen. It was it shows such a great side of Hu Yang and what he really cares. It's like he's like the first droid that really, I mean, C-3PO had some kind of crazy emotions too, but he's got some emotions that I think are really he's one of my favorite droids. He really is.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of went off about B2EMO during our Andor reviews on Scoundrels Inc., like saying, like, look, if I have a Roomba, I want it to go around clean my house. I don't want it to be like, oh, where's Marva? Like, just clean my house, go back, make my coffee, right? So,
it's a good point, though. Pisspot did have emotions. It's a good point.
But this one, like, Hu Yang, like, my God, like, the fact is, he probably trained this dude. If this guy gets canonized, like, he was around for like thousands and thousands of years. He trained Revan, Malak, Exar Kun before he turned back. Like, everybody, like, that's crazy of his wealth of knowledge. And then he's almost like Ollivander, right? He made everybody their sabers and stuff like that instead of the wands. Not to get too nerdy with the Harry Potter, but and that scene too, like, I'm usually not one where I like droids to show emotions, like, unless it's really earned. And like, especially this droid who has lived so many thousands of years, but he has now seen this Jedi have grown from such a big number and then fallen. And it's like everyone he loses now, he's like, dude, it's like if he stayed together, they could have lived. And like, that's great. He's feeling the loss of so much. And I think it might be weighing in on him now, you know?
And he doesn't know nobody knows what's going on. And then Jacen finally, and this is where Jacen like feels something. And he's like, he knows something's out there. He even said it. And then we shoot to that title, Shadow Warrior. And it's like, okay, you know that the second we come back to it, here we go, and then we're off and running with the. Is it the world between worlds?
Yes. So, man, I like that. Like, you don't know. Like, is Anakin a Force ghost? Is it in her head? And I'm reminded of a quote again. I'm going with Harry Potter stuff again. I'm sorry for if anyone doesn't like Harry Potter, but at one point at the
Stop
end,
apologizing, Lee.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being on this show. I'm sorry for existing.
Sad sack.
Sad sack. Harry Potter dies basically, and then is in this afterlife, which is like King's Cross Station, and Dumbledore's in his head, and he's like, Dumbledore, like, is this happening that I'm talking to you because you've been dead, or is this in my head? And he literally says, of course it's happening in your head, but why on earth should that mean that it's not real? So like, my theory going in was that Anakin, for his penance, I texted you this, I'm like, for all of his deeds, they were like, all right, you kind of slaughtered school children, you blew up planets, like, yeah, you're back, you're good. But you need to now be hall monitor of the world between worlds, basically. Like, and that's what I thought. Like, he's always going to be there guarding over time and space. But I don't know, like a hall monitor, basically, like Red Skull was in to the Soul Stone, right? But now I think that he was a Force ghost, but he might be a little something more. And I know people are saying, I don't think they'll ever go live action too much into the Mortis God stuff, because you're already asking a lot of people when you're like, now we have this afterlife with these long, like for live action fans, they're just used to like what they saw in the movies, basically, right? So yeah. I think he was probably a Force ghost, but maybe he's a little more, like not quite a Mortis God, but something a lot in between a Force ghost.
I think you're right as far as the Mortis stuff goes, for sure. Because look, that was a big Lucas thing too, not just a Filoni thing. The Mortis stuff was stuff that Lucas worked on and was very, very involved in with those Mortis episodes. But the thing is, when it comes to the world between worlds, my question is, when you go back and you watch the Rebels episode when Ezra is able to access it and be able to go, it's this whole episode where the Empire is trying to figure out how to get through the gateway and the doorway to get through it, and Ezra has opened up the gateway using the Mortis gods to the code to walk through it. And then once he's out, they destroy it, or they turn it off, or whatever, or they change it. They change it to with the locks or whatever it is. But they needed a gate in order to do it. Like, so they don't really explain in this episode, if she is in the world between worlds, what was the gate? Because as far as inside of your head, I would have said maybe it's inside of her head and she was floating around in the water, and that's how she was able to survive underneath it, because whatever it might be. But Jacen's hearing the lightsabers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and wasn't she died in Clone Wars too, right? Like, so part of the daughter is in her. So she might, right?
Who? Ahsoka?
Ahsoka, yeah. Like basically died. I felt like she died in the Clone Wars. Please, in the comments, you'll either roast me or you'll agree with me.
I don't remember.
She has a connection. That's why that bird thing is always following her around.
Okay.
And so she might have access to that. But this goes to my larger theory about Baylan. I think Baylan is after the world between worlds, because I think the path to hell is paved with good intentions. And I think that Baylan was really messed up by Order 66. And I think when he says, like, what is it at the end of this road that we have? When Shin said that a couple episodes ago, and he's like, absolute power. And then I rewatched the Rebels episode 2 when the doctor's telling Sabine about the world between worlds. And she's like, whoever has access to it will have the ultimate power of time and space, right? Baylan wants to get to that world between worlds, to go back in time. Foolishly, he thinks he can do that so he could stop Anakin in Order 66. That's my theory, and that we are in the end going to realize Baylan had good intentions, but I think at some point Thrawn's just going to be like, we don't need you anymore. It's going to be tragic. But
this goes back to the beginning of our conversation with the speculation, right? This is the fun speculation part of it. I think we're done with the world between worlds. I think we're not going to see it anymore. I think that because you remember, you only have 6, 7, and 8 now to tell the ultimate part of the story, which is find Thrawn, set up Thrawn to the live action viewers as well, pose the big threat. Is Ezra around? Where the hell are they? To jump back in between the world between worlds and all that, with Ahsoka really being the only one now after the space whales take her through the portal. I think that if there was like 15 episodes, they said maybe, who knows, maybe they'll go back there. But I think we're done with it. But we spent a lot of time there. And before we even spend any more time there talking about it, I want to tell you guys about 2 of our wonderful sponsors. I've told you about Helix Sleep before, and I love them so much. I'm going to tell you about them. I'm going to tell you about Nutrafol right now. It's time for a new mattress. This video is sponsored by Helix Sleep. I got a new mattress from Helix, and I love it. When I had heard that Helix was coming on board, or they were interested in it, I was like, well, you know, my wife and I, we really do need a new mattress for our room. And we've had our old one for about 6 years or so. And it's like, yeah, let me check it out. It's really great. Premium mattresses customized to fit your needs, conveniently shipped right to your door. Helix's sleep quiz, it matches you to the perfect mattress based on your body type and your sleep preferences. I need a nice, relaxing bed and nice and comfy and something good for my back. I sleep on my side, so I had all that stuff, and it let me know exactly what was right. The Helix sleep mattresses are fiberglass free. They deliver the mattress right to your door, free shipping in the US, and it comes rolled up in a box, and it's really easy to set up. One of the things that I loved is that there is a 100-night sleep trial to test the mattress out and ensure that you love it. Helix mattresses include a 10-year warranty, and they offer financing options and flexible payment plans. We got the Helix Sunset Luxe. And already when I got it, I was like, oh man, put it on the bed, on the frame, and we laid down on it, and I was just like, oh, it's so soft and it's so comfortable. And the hilarious thing is we let it air out, and we had my in-laws over, and I was outside, and I walk in, and my mother-in-law is just laying on the bed. This is so comfortable. It's amazing. And my kids want to like lay on it. It's super. It's just, you just kind of sink into it, and it's just so comfortable. Visit helixsleep.com/bigthing and get 20% off your Helix mattress plus 2 free pillows. So go ahead and check it out. Thank you again to Helix for being involved in the show. Very excited to have them for a sponsor. If you're looking for a new mattress and you've been looking for a new mattress, please consider them. I'm loving it. The picture you saw was from my place. That's my mattress. It's before we put the sheets on. That's after we put the sheets on. That's everything. I love it. And I'm very excited that they're on board. So please consider them. And not only will you be super satisfied, you'll also be helping out the show. So use the link in the description. Please go and check it out right now. Don't be embarrassed. Don't do it. Listen, did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, guys. But it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair wealth wellness quiz. Identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. It works. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol men's hair growth supplements. Everybody feels this way as you're getting older. You're like, oh man, am I the only one? Why is this happening to me? This and that. We're in an age now where you can get it helped. You can get it fixed. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men, but you have to enter that promo code BIGTHING. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. Nutrafol.com/men and enter that code BIGTHING. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code BIGTHING. All right, thank you to our friends over at both Helix Sleep and Nutrafol. I am not BSing you, everybody. I love this mattress so much. I was so happy when they sent it. It is the most relaxing mattress I've ever had in my life. That is not hyperbole. It is fact. And Nutrafol, try it. I'm telling you. And you help out the show. You help out yourselves when you do this. I put the links in the description, and I always pin the sponsors on the top comment. So if you're able to, you have the means to, please help us out and do so.
That was one hell of a segue.
Thanks.
You know, I always got to prop your segues.
I appreciate that. So let's get back into it now, because this is where it really all begins and where the majority of people are losing their minds, and rightfully so. You have this whole conversation with Anakin and Ahsoka as it leaves off in the last episode. and they're just kind of staring at each other, and she doesn't really understand what the hell's going on. And we never really get a reason why or any of this, how she got there. She's just trying to figure out, because she's, as you mentioned, this space in between time and all this stuff. He's like, you lost a fight. And I will say this, I gave them so much crap last week, and I think rightfully so, on how bad that deep fake was. It looked great this episode. It looked great. Like they just took little pieces out of the wrinkles and things there, and made them just de-aged him just a little bit, gave him a haircut, did these certain things. I thought it looked fantastic.
Yeah, and what's funny is a leaker actually, right after it aired last week, he was like, "Don't worry, it looks way better in the next episode." So it's not like they went back to the well and like did it better. Like for some reason they had a different team on that or whatever. Like
I don't think so.
Same team. Yeah, but like, why would it be bad at that first one and then so good later, which is weird. But I do believe that that de-aging is probably the best. I think it's better than Luke, even in the in Book of Boba Fett. I think it's better than Luke, and it's on par with Michael Douglas. And I think Samuel L. Jackson's de-aging in Captain Marvel was the best. That was insane. Like a whole movie, he was in it like that. So
yeah. Well, the reason why I think it was so good also, and this is what I said when I was so confused why they didn't do it for Obi-Wan, it's because he's not that old. You only really have to de-age him by like, 15, 16 years, and you just got to, like with Mark Hamill, you got to just stick a whole new face on him. You don't really have to do that with Hayden Christensen. You just got to do a couple airbrushes. You got to take some age out of him, put some stuff from the older movies, and I agree with you. It worked brilliantly, but it's the conversation that he's having with him too, and I think that this is what goes back to what you were saying. The reason why I do think it is kind of like a Mortis God or something, because we'll get more into depth about everything that we see, but this is what do they always say about Anakin? He's the chosen one, right? He was the one who brought balance to the Force. And throughout this lesson, he's given Ahsoka, he's got to do it by going through the light side and the dark side. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think this proves, because everybody, myself included, unless you were like grew up with the prequels and when you were watching it as an older person, the dialogue from a lot of performances were wooden. Hayden Christensen's performance in a lot of it was wooden, because he didn't have a lot to do. He has a lot to do here, and he shows, look what I could have done with the directing of the performance. This is the best Anakin we've seen so far.
Leonardo DiCaprio couldn't pull off some of those lines in Attack of the Clones. Remember, he was like rumored to be him and Ryan Philippe. I remember that whole thing. Yeah. Look, that's the way. There was cheesy lines in Empire Strikes Back, even the greatest of all of them, right? Like, my hands are dirty, or my hands are dirty too. Like, if that was out in the era of Twitter and people didn't like the filmmaker, they probably would have hammered him on that. So it's all subjective, but so glad that, Hayden kind of got to I don't like to say redeem. That's the wrong word, because he did his job. He did his.
Got to do more. Got to do more.
Yeah, got to do more. Absolutely.
So they have this battle. It's light side Anakin. When I was watching, I was like, oh, this is going to be a different Anakin than we thought it was going to be the dark side Anakin, but it's not. This is like, and they made it pretty clear, because he's got the blue saber and he's just teaching her, and it's a fight, and it goes through, and then it bounces back to what's the planet that they're on?
So I thought it was Teth at first, because she says it's our first mission, but it's not Teth. It's Ryloth. And I confirmed that
no, not in the flashback when where Hera and all them are at.
Oh, they're on Cetos or Satos, they call it.
Okay, right. So we jump back to Satos. We jump back to Satos. Yeah, well, exactly. That's why I asked you. So we jump back to Satos, and this is where we have that conversation where Chopper and Jacen are just staring out there, and Jacen hears it, and this is the whole conversation I was talking about where. Because Hu Yang's like, all right, this kid hears something, so something's going on. But before we even get into that conversation, I've done this before to Filoni, and I need to stop doing it, because last week I was like, how do they not even mention Princess Leia? How do they not mention Luke? How do you? You got to. Like, isn't your first phone call to Luke Skywalker in a situation like this? Because even I brought up the Flash. And the Flash, they bring up in the beginning of the movie, they're like, well, Superman's busy, Aquaman's busy, but at least mentioning them.
Yeah.
Finally, they get one, and they go, well, Senator Organa says she can only buy us so much time, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
And it's like, they mentioned Leia. That was great. Did you geek out at that one?
Yeah, not so much that one. More about I was just glad that they gave the lip service to Kanan because I was just
Yeah.
so worried they're going to try to bury him. Like, because I did hear about this drama or whatever that the Freddie print. I don't know if there's some fallout or whatever. And I was like, I just don't want the story to suffer. Like that.
Yeah,
It is a very important thing to this child of who his father was, and like Kanan is up there with one of my favorite Jedi too. So I was really glad to hear that, and yeah, to hear Organa. I mean, at this point, you're gonna have obviously the Filoni movie. I don't know if it's after this season or if there's another season and then the Filoni movie, but the Filoni movie is basically going to be the Star Wars Avengers style team up movie, right? You're gonna bring everybody from each show and it's gonna be the Avengers. But you can't have you can't have Luke and Han and even Leia sit this one out. Maybe Han, but like you can't have the son of the chosen one sit this one out. So like at this point, are you going to do the deep fake for a whole movie, or are you going to recast, get Sebastian Stan in there? Like, I don't know what they're going to do, but you're right. Like, it's time to start acknowledging these people. Unfortunately, you're trying to show movies in an era where they're at their prime. And so they're not going to sit this one out and be like, oh, heir to the empire, no worry about it. Like, they have to be part of it. He doesn't have to be huge. You don't need to do Luke. It's like, yeah.
It's only 6 years. It's only 6 years since, the events of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So like, why they're in their prime still? Like, why wouldn't they be involved? Now, it's good they mentioned Organa, so we know, okay, she's involved in the Senate. She's involved in this. We just don't see her. Okay, I'm good with that. Where's Luke? Even you can probably get away with Han at this point. Han's doing something. He's on some kind of mission. He's doing something with Lando. He's like, and honestly, he's one that if you don't mention him. I get it. Like, maybe, Solo and Lando are doing something out at somebody. I'm not in this show. You don't need him in this show, but as you're talking about the big movie, you don't necessarily need him, even though John Hoey is crossing his fingers that Alden Ehrenreich is going to show up. But I will say that you got to have Luke. You got some way or another. You got to have Luke, and especially if you're trying to do the Zahn novels, it's some kind of play into Heir to the Empire, whether or not you're substituting Ahsoka for Luke or not. You got to try to figure that out.
I think it's okay for this series though, because I think Ahsoka's made this a personal journey anyway, and I don't think she's told a lot of people. I don't think she's on the phone with Luke saying, "Hey, I'm gonna go, try to hop on some space whales and find Ezra." And I think even when Hera was mentioning it to the New Republic, they were just idiots and like not wanting to help. So I think that they're just getting no support anyway. But I think that Ahsoka was like, Luke's busy with his thing. This is my personal journey. I'm gonna do it. But yeah, when Thrawn finally gets back, and I predict that the end of the season is gonna be. That's like the last shot of Attack of the Clones with the army and the showing the ships leave in the beginning of the Clone Wars. I think the last shot of this season is going to be Thrawn in all his glory somewhere with a new fleet or whatever it is, and we're going to end there. So yeah, but now after that, when people check on Facebook and Threads and space that Thrawn's back, that's when Luke's got to get involved, and definitely Leia needs to throw her weight around the Senate.
What's so nuts about it is you know how excited I am about the Acolyte. To learn a different part of the Star Wars history where there's a bunch of Jedi running around and the Sith are just starting to kind of come up from through the shadows. It's fascinating to me. However, again, showing that there was never really a big plan throughout it, I think it was a mistake that's going to be one of the next ones that comes out when you're trying to set up Filoni's movie, because you've got Skeleton Crew that got pushed back, right? We don't know when that's coming out, so that'll probably come out somewhere in the February, March area, depending on the strike. Then you've got to get another season of Mandalorian, season 4, and then what I heard was that if Ahsoka did well with the fans and ratings, it would be season 2 leading into it. Looks like if that's the case, if that is factual, we're getting a season 2 because it's doing good ratings. It is a water cooler show. They haven't had a water cooler show since Mandalorian season 2.
It should have been Obi-Wan, man. It should have been Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they had one moment when Vader kind of came back, but for the most part, that show
Obi-Wan's still higher on it for me, but that's only because of my fan edit. Like, because the things that I thought were wrong with it, we kind of remedied it or whatever. But yeah, it could. This is the potential of what Obi-Wan could have done. Imagine if Filoni could have done the Obi-Wan. And I'm like, no disrespect to the other filmmaker. Like, I never want to harp on anyone. Like, I never want to be negative on anyone because as a filmmaker myself, going to film school and making my own movies, some were good, some were bad. I understand the feeling of putting all that work into something and then when people shit on it. So I'm not sorry if I can. I don't know if I can cuss on it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
yeah. Well, and so as we jump back into our moment here, though, we've got Chopper, Hera, and then and I love what Carson's been doing lately too. Really, and he was hilarious in this episode. And he goes, "What are we doing here? Are we waiting around? We got to go. Like, we don't have much time." And then they're like, "Well, hold on a second. Let me see what's going on." She then goes and talks to Jacen. He's like, I hear something. This is the moment that I was talking about. She's like, "All right, sure you do, kid." And then finally, whether she hears it, whatever she does, she closes her eyes and she knows something's going on. She turns around, and she goes, "All right, we're gonna do this now." So everybody, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And then when they have this moment between Hu Yang, and this was the funniest moment. This is, again, I always reference this, where if anybody ever says to me, "Oh, you don't like when they joke in Star Wars," false. I like when it fits the characters, when it makes sense, when it feels like it's an organic moment that could be funny. And this is one of those moments to me. Hu Yang's out there, and when he says, she's Kanan Jarrus was his father, who's a Jedi. He's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, he's like representing all of like the live fans that only know the movies, that have never seen Rebels, and like that's what my wife would say. She would be like, "Oh yeah, that's that. Oh, cool.
Checks out, and then he just believes it. He goes about his business. I thought it was great, and I thought he delivered it perfectly. It's just kind of shrugs, looks over, and it's just he just turns. He's like, "All right, fine. Let's just. I guess that's what we're doing here." So he runs back to the ship and he gets everybody ready, and Hu Yang just kind of walks back in, and Jacen and Chopper just. And I love how loyal Chopper is to Jacen. By the way, do you notice that he doesn't give him? He gives crap to everybody. He doesn't give Jacen any crap.
Yeah, and it's that found family thing, but like that now you're having a real legacy family there.
Yeah.
And I man, where's Jacen in the sequel trilogy? Right? Is he dead? Where is he, man? Where's Ezra? You can't have Ezra miss out on another war. Like, you got one, okay, you got to miss the original trilogy because you were out and hanging out with space whales and Thrawn. But like, if he's back, man, unless the series or Filoni movie figures out a way to like get him forcibly stuck there again for another 60 years. Like, where's Ezra? Where's Jacen? Like, is Jacen just one of the dead bodies from Kylo? Like, that's where because I feel like Ezra's going to train Jacen, right? Like, I feel like that's what we'll head for. I hope so. But where are they, man? Like, again, when you work in such a small time space, I never believe in happy endings. I always think that, man, if they're not there, they're probably dead. And for Ezra, you can't have him miss out on another global galaxy thing. So what's going on?
Ezra, man? Ahsoka, Sabine, like, where are all these people?
Yeah.
So it also goes back. The funny thing is, I bet you if he had his way at the time, he didn't have the kind of clout that he has now. He probably would have. He got Hera's name mentioned in Rogue One.
Yeah.
But like, they probably, if Filoni had the clout he has today, you probably would have seen at least an older version or one of those characters pop up in the new trilogy. But the problem is that was the old school way of thinking with, okay, well, this filmmaker doesn't need to pay attention to things we're doing. Just you, filmmaker 1, do your thing. Filmmaker 2, do your thing. Filmmaker 3, do your thing. Oh wait, you're fired. We're bringing back number 1. Yeah, there's no. So that, I think that has now changed now, and I think Filoni and Favreau have helped change that. But as we jump back, then we have this moment. This is the one that people, including myself, lost their minds for. Ahsoka kind of one-ups Anakin a little bit in this battle, and he's like, "I didn't teach you everything," and he shows he's kind of, you're right, he's kind of a gatekeeper. He knows what to do, and he slashes the World Between Worlds thing. She falls, and I'm like, as I'm watching this thing, Kevin, going, where is she going? Like, what there was rumors that like it was going to be Mustafar, and then you were going to see like him like beating Obi-Wan, and she pops up, and the first thing I saw stormtroopers running out, and then I noticed very quickly that they were clone troopers, and I'm like, oh, we're in the Clone Wars, and they pop through, and you have her as young Ahsoka, and it's played by the same actress that was in the Barbie movie, and I think she was young Gamora too, I think.
Yeah, she is, and that begs the question: how many? That would be a funny trivia question. How many people are this actress? Her name, she played young Gamora. Her name is Ariana Greenblatt or Green something. But
you're right.
She played, like, Thanos was her mentor, and now Darth Vader was her mentor. How many billions of people did these people kill? But so she plays a good person. She does a great young Ahsoka. Now that is, the people thought it was the Battle of Teth, but on a further rewatch, it's the Battle of Ryloth. Yeah, because you see Twi'leks too, like in Commander gear.
The first battle, one of the first battles. It was one of their first battles.
Yeah, in the first season, and that's after when she led that space battalion where she got everybody like killed because she didn't listen to orders. So that it's also playing into that episode. She's talking about how even in that battle a lot of people died, but also she's referring to the space battle over her head that happened earlier where these people died. But man, talk about live action Clone Wars.
It was great. It was so great to see. And then so our good buddy Chris Skaliski, who was one of who was like the main writer of Schmodown for years. He wrote, he's like, well, the one thing is I think they got the actress was a little too young. I don't agree. I think she's the perfect age. I think she's the perfect age. There's exactly when she started the Clone Wars, like that's how old she was. She was around that area. And when you go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's how messed up the Clone Wars were. Like that you had Padawans that were like forced into it and forced into this situation where they had to fight way too young. And I can't wait to watch it with my wife because I know she's going to mention the same thing. Like, man, she's just a child. It's like, that's what the Clone Wars were. And the Jedi were, she didn't get to stay in the temple and do all these lessons with Liam Lee versus the Shade.
He says it to her. He goes, I got to train you to be a soldier. So he says it. Yeah.
And I think it's really powerful showing how young she is and like how she's like scared and like, look, dude, like back in the Civil War, they had young 12-year-olds not fighting, but like the drum boys that were like going to the front and stuff like that. Like this is the reality is in some desperate situations, they were throwing rifles in the hands of children to like defend their lands and stuff like that. And so I thought I just like anything real. And I told you about this when I was in studio the last time is that I really want I've always said not gritty is so overly used, but a de-aged Hayden and Ewan coming together and doing a Clone Wars movie. Now you could have Ahsoka in the mix and you do an Apocalypse Now style story where they get stranded on Felucia or some crazy story that lives in this universe. And I think they proved they can do it. We don't need a show. We don't need a series. We need a movie. Just give us a 2-hour awesome war movie. My God, that would make $1 billion, wouldn't it?
This was fantastic to see, like for Clone Wars fans in general. And I mean, not even necessarily fans of the animated show. It really showed a side of the Clone Wars that we haven't seen in live action before. It showed it. We've seen it. So people who were fans of the show got a chance to see this, got a chance to see all these things, but it really wasn't able. And they gave him the short hair at this point. They had like how Ahsoka kind of comes into play. They're dynamic in general in this conversation she has, and she's even like, "Aren't you going to be so serious?" He's like, "Do you want me to always be serious?" And like, it's like this conversation that they're having between the two of them, and all the clones are coming through, and the ships are in the background. It was like. It really, I mean, they did something well, even with obviously with the volume, but you can't really tell too much of it. It played fantastic. You can tell that Filoni's been wanting to do this for a long time. The explosions going off. This is the kind of stuff that I think that even though Attack of the Clones is gorgeous looking when it comes to the computer side of it, a lot of big criticisms are how computer graphics and almost animated it looks. This is that war feel that we've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, and Hayden is such a student of the game now too. Before he started Obi-Wan, he famously said publicly, I rewatched all of the Clone Wars. And what I love about Hayden was he still brought some of his delivery of lines, like when he would sometimes he talks and blinks a lot, trying to say a sentence, trying to get through to someone. He's saying that to Ahsoka, but then he'll sound like Matt Lanter too. And it's because he said he rewatched all of the Clone Wars and wanted to do justice to what he had done too. And it's such a merging of both characters in that scene. And let's give credit to this young actress too, who's playing Ahsoka, but she's not playing 13-year-old Ahsoka in the war, or 14-year-old she is. She has to play an older Ahsoka trapped, like playing big, basically, right? Like trapped in the young Ahsoka's body right now. And the way she was able to do that, and kind of, you can tell that was like older Ahsoka in younger Ahsoka. And it's great. And when she's like, oh, that's the Clone Wars, he's like, no kidding. Like their banter back and forth was so good. Yeah. This scene was just ear to ear grinning.
But it did. And it absolutely rewarded fans that watch these shows and understood it without losing new fans. But like there was the moment where she's got her hand on the clone trooper who's hurting. She always had a relationship with the clone troopers. She always cared about them, right? You saw that side of her that you fell in love with, the character of Ahsoka. She has those conversations with Anakin, and this is where, as they're getting worked on, and he's kind of telling her, we're still seeing that version and the lesson that he's teaching her through the World Between Worlds in these moments of like the balance behind it. But you're right, though, if you look in the background, you can see some of the Twi'leks in the back having conversations with clone troopers for sure.
And I love that you see Phase 1 clone trooper armor, and I think Rex is in the background in the credits. I love little things like this. It's so Filoni. So in the credits, they credit Tamora Morrison, and they make sure to say Commander Rex / Captain Rex, because like at one point he's a captain, at one point he's a commander. Earlier on in the war, you have Phase 1 armor and Phase 2 armor, and then we'll get to that. Obviously, I don't want to jump too far ahead of that. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
But dude, this is the best part of it all, because they have this long conversation. You see the relationship, and you really see why Anakin was a good master for that during that part of it. But he starts walking off and into battle with that saber, and then they switch really quick, but clear as day. And there's that shot and silhouette of him as in the full Vader gear, and it's like, oh my god, this is the next phase of this World Between Worlds that we're going to.
Yeah, and his armor is so great, and I never realized it, but when you see it in live action, that armor is kind of shades of Vader's later. He has that shoulder plate too, which really, like, a lot of the time, I've always two things that this episode did for me. Okay, whenever I would watch like my rewatch, I'm a completionist, so like I'll watch episode 1, then I'll everything episode 2, then the Clone Wars, and whenever I would go from Clone Wars to episode 3, it was so hard for me to reconcile that it's the same actor, because you fall in love with Matt Lanter's portrayal, and then you get Hayden Christensen, and it's a little different and whatnot. This like merged it so well for me, and also I used to have such a trouble watching the original trilogy after episode 3, because I'd be like, how do I see Hayden in there? I'm trying to like find similarities. Like that's just the product of growing up before you knew him and now after you know him. But this with like the shoulder blades, and he's standing like over her, that is like and the Obi-Wan show did a good job of that too, when you finally see what he looks like under it in live action. But this did a good job for me of reconciling the fact that Hayden is Anakin, Hayden is Vader, and I'm just so stoked about that. Not that he wasn't before, but for me personally, just to admit, it was very hard for me to sometimes see that the animated Anakin was the same as the live action Anakin. But he did it here, and you're right. We flash to Vader, and we get into this next portion, man.
What about that Return of the Jedi line that we kind of forgot about though too in the beginning, where she says to him, I will not fight you, or I'm not going to fight you. He's like, I've heard that before.
Yeah, great. I at first I thought he was also referencing, like, because she kind of says that during the Twilight of the Apprentice and Rebels on Malachor, so I was like, oh, maybe she's mentioning that, but no, I do believe after the second viewing, it's definitely they're referencing
Luke, right?
Yeah, and that's just great. And I'll say this because I don't want to forget it. We've seen now all of our dream matchups. We've seen the Obi-Wan versus Anakin round 2, in the Obi-Wan show, or Obi-Wan versus Vader and Anakin. Yeah. Now we've seen live action Ahsoka with Anakin. The one last thing I hope we see it is I want to see Luke interact with a Force Ghost Anakin at some point.
Somewhere, right?
Yeah. Father and son, we got to see it. Apparently, it was very close to having Anakin instead of Yoda in The Last Jedi, but he showed that he felt that Luke had a stronger connection with Yoda, which makes sense, right? It wasn't Anakin.
But I would like to see, especially the conversations that they've had with Ahsoka and Luke in that Boba Fett show, and then leading into this. It's healthy Star Wars, man. It's healthy Star Wars.
And it's the last of the super fight, right? We always wanted Cena versus Hogan. We never got it. We wanted Hogan versus Austin. We never got it. I hope we get, the equivalent of the wrestling, but I hope we get Luke hanging out and talking with Anakin at some point.
It's true, because like I said, it's healthy Star Wars. And if you want to be healthy, you need to have Green Chef. I'll tell you that right now. Green Chef. It is fantastic. I love myself some Green Chef. I've told you about Green Chef many times over. And you guys should hear a little bit about it. I'll tell you about it right now. Here you go. You guys know Green Chef. I've been talking about Green Chef forever. I love them. I've been so excited to continue to work with them because I've been eating really good, as I mentioned before, not only with other vitamins and stuff I'm taking, but I'm eating really well. And the reason why I'm eating so well is because Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating clean with dinners that work for you, and it's not the other way around. You can eat clean the easy way with recipes that help manage your weight and support your wellness goals without skimping on flavor. I talk about it all the time. I do my own. I make like quesadillas now, and I can throw stuff on the grill. They have really good meat, good burgers, and they have everything that you can actually. If you don't like burgers, you want to eat vegan more, they can do that too. You can enjoy effortless plant-based dining with Vegan Kickoff, which is a brand new limited time options, including delicious vegan breakfast, lunches, dinners, and sides. They have everything. They deliver everything you need to eat clean the easy way for the rest of the summer. You can feel your best with nutritionists approved recipes packed with clean ingredients that support your healthy lifestyle, and they taste great too. So if you want to check it out, please go and do it because they're really amazing. You get ahead of the busy season with their convenient step-by-step recipes. They have dinners that are ready in like 25 minutes or less. I'm telling you, it was so easy for me, and I'm an imbecile when it comes to cooking. And it was so great. I mean, I love them. If you go to greenchef.com/60thing, greenchef.com/60thing, and use that code 60thing, you'll get 60% off plus free shipping. It is worth the shot. Go and give it a whirl, as the world girls would say. It is so good. I love it, and you'll love it too. So make sure you check it out. That is Green Chef, everybody. All right. Thank you to our friends once again over at Green Chef. Why do you keep hearing about Green Chef? Because you guys keep getting them. You keep signing up. And I love that. And they love that. And if you're able to do it and you have the means to do it and you want some really good eats, get yourself some Green Chef. Use that code, especially for that discount. Come on. And you will be helping out this show. The link is in the description, pinned in the comments.
Great segue, man. Great segue.
Thank you. They're the best. You got to try some Green Chef, man.
I'll try it.
Yeah, you should.
Send me some. You're like the guy now. Send me some.
Use that code, 60% off. You can do it. All right, here it is. Here's the next one. This is the as we get through and now, did you get Empire vibes when they were looking for Luke? You know, in the beginning of Empire, when they're looking for Luke.
When she's in the ship, low angle.
They're looking for Ahsoka, and they're kind of scanning the whole area, and they've got, you know, the X-wings are scanning. They can't find it, and then finally they get really low. The ghost gets really low, and I was nervous though, because I'm like, out of all the Mandalorians and shows that we've seen, and how many monsters are underneath that sea.
Yeah, you never know. It's Jurassic Park it's Jurassic World under there.
Yeah,
but yeah, I like that, and you got to talk about too. I think that Hera asks how Anakin was training, and he's like, he was intense. Like, yeah, I thought that was funny. It
was a good segue. Speaking of segues, it was a good segue into it. And then, but she's also talking. But in that whole conversation, we find out that she didn't get any approval. We knew it already. She didn't get any approval from the Senate. They're going to be coming after her. And Hu Yang's like, oh, okay. And then I guess that's what it is. But she says that they're out there kind of chasing ghosts, and I love Hu Yang's like, you know, this is why people like you. This is why, because you do things like this. And it's again another nice moment between the two of them, showing a little bit more about Hu Yang, and she's trying to figure out where the hell are they? Like, people don't just vanish into thin air. And it's like, well, you've probably never seen Last Jedi, but
that's the thing. Well, that's the thing too. Like, if she underwater, like the scanners would have picked her up, or is she physically in the world between worlds and it's not in her head? Like, you know, scanners would pick her up unless it's some crazy thing where she was in that nether world, right? Or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, this is when they tell her, go lower to the ground. Chopper's kind of picking something up, and they try to go through, and then we jump back to now it's the Siege of Mandalore. Now, when she's a little older now, but when was the Siege of Mandalore? Because it was after they split up. When was that timeline wise? Do you remember?
Shout out to Frank Janish, Fellow Scoundrels Inc. He did a super cut of episode 3, and it's like 4 hours long. And I would even watch it when I was training for Schmodown. Yeah. I didn't care. I wanted the full story. And so when he lived with me briefly during the pandemic, we sat down and we figured out how you would intercut it. And so he did an episode 3. We did an episode 3 like intercut with the Siege of Mandalore and all those final Clone Wars episodes. So like it's happening concurrent with episode 3, all of that. And you notice the troopers have the painted orange, which is when he get, you know, she has the lone green saber in the first flashback, and in this one she has the 2, and it's because Anakin had given it to her on the bridge of the starship before she showed the members of 501st wearing the orange painted like helmets. So that's Siege of Mandalore. That's happening concurrently with episode 3. And I mean, talk about, you could see a difference in her like abilities too. Like now she's just flipping around. She's like like Filoni just loves like Ahsoka, like showing how badass she was. And you see it right there in live action. It was glorious. It
was great. And you see the Mandalorians kind of going down left and right. And then this is when we actually hear Rex, and he's going to secure the perimeter. And now it's got like that Christmas Carol feel to it, where
Yeah.
Anakin walks over and he's like, he's like, I don't remember this battle, and she's like, we were split up at this point, and he's like, it looks intense, and she's like, yeah,
He was
what?
impressed by it. He was impressed.
He was, but this is the version of Anakin, though. Now, as we're starting to see, like again, the balance of it. This is where we start to see where he tells her, "Look, you're part of." He tells her, "He's like, you're part of a legacy now." And then, and she's like, "I'm part of." She taken into consideration what Balin told her, I'm part of death and destruction. He's like, "No, because then, because she says my only part of my legacy is that part of war." And he's like, "You're more than that, because I'm more than that." And she's like, "You are more than that, but you're a lot more powerful than people realized you were." And say, "Oh, that's what this is about." And then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, and I like that. Like he's like, he almost is like dismissive of it. He's like, "Really, you're gonna?" It's like, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. We're burying the lead here, Anakin, but you kind of turned your back on everyone. But like, she's not getting the lesson at that point, and that's what then turns this lesson. And he's like, all right. And because deep down, Anakin, there's whatever version of this is, whether it's in her head or it's a Force ghost or Mortis or whatever, he's rooting for Ahsoka. He wants Ahsoka. Remember, his choice in the beginning, it's like, do you want to live or you want to die? And if she wants to live, she's going to have to pass these trials. And he never got to finish her training. That's why he's going to here to train. And if she doesn't finish training with him, she stays in the afterlife, right? But if she does, this is it. And like Anakin's like, it almost is like really like, because Anakin is now, when you're connected to something now and you're like the part of the Force and stuff, it's so minor of a thing of what he did. When if you look at it and you zoom back of all of time, right, in his head, it's like, it's that little thing. Like you got to get past that, because right now you need to live. You need to recapture that spirit of what made you such a great Jedi. And if now I'm going to have to do this. And it's funny, Brandon actually on Scoundrels mentioned this and it made me laugh. He was like, it's like, that's when Anakin's like, all right, I got to go Sith eyes. I got to go bad, get the red saber. You think afterwards he hung out when he went back to Ghost Obi-Wan was like, don't you think that was a little over the top? And Anakin's like, no, man, like I needed to bring it out, or I had to start whipping out
he had to use the balance. He had to use the balance of the Force for sure. And like and I actually think that the red Sith eyes that way more effective than the yellow, way less monstery, and like the corruption behind it and the idea behind it, like, and he's got the saber now, and the style that Hayden Christensen now uses is very reminiscent to that, the battle between Obi-Wan and he's just using, and he even does that thing with his arm when he held Obi-Wan and pushed her through, and she kind of gets through it, and now he's coming straight after her, and they're back on the bridge again. And I love that they transition now, and now it's Rosario Dawson who is now back, and he comes running at her at the bridge, or just walking faster, but then again that Vader in the full on gear walking after her, like terrifying. And they have this battle, and it's not very long, but it's long enough. And she grabs it, and now she has a saber to his neck. He's got the red eyes, and he closes his eyes for a second, because after she says, "I choose to live," and his eyes go back to that kind of pure Anakin. It was just a really nice transition.
Yeah, there's hope for you yet, he says. Like he was proud of his student, and like, oh man, goosebumps just talking about it. Like he got to finish that training he never did. And I had to prepare for the show. I had just watched the episode The Wrong Jedi where she leaves him, and like that broke Anakin. Like he didn't get to finish the training. Like I understand, like when you take ownership of someone, or not someone, but you know what I mean? Like you care about their well-being and you want to do it. And he was probably so proud of that moment. And then at that point, that's when he could, you don't want to see him go away. And like, I knew when they started doing that camera angle, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is the last we see of him, at least for now. But he was proud of that. And he busted out all the stops. You saw that Sith eyes. And I like that, that he kept his style from episode 3, but like, meanwhile, Ahsoka, it's such a badass. Like she kept getting better and better, that I think it was never in doubt that she would be able to, like, at this point anyway, take on this Force vision. And I think Anakin wanted her to. And the test was, are you going to kill me? Because it's just like in Rise of Skywalker. If she strikes down Palpatine, she becomes he gets to inherit. It's that same thing. But she chooses life, and she gets that mojo back. And I'm sure you're about to talk about that. So I'll let you go.
Well, yeah, but she does. The water kind of sinks overtakes her. He sends her back, whatever. Again, can't wait for that gallery episode to get from what I do love is, I'm not going to pretend that I know everything what the hell happened. We have our theories, I think I know. It might be the world between worlds. It might not be. It might be something completely. It might be Anakin that brought her there to be able to choose to finish the training. We're gonna get some definition when that gallery series comes out, so I can't wait for that. But then she goes back and there's like this Born Identity shot where she's floating on top of the water now, and you know she gets recovered by because she's got to, there's something they got to explain, like how is she breathing under there, unless she, like you said, her physical body was just taken between the world between worlds, placed back to where she was, and now she's able to do, because they find her, they get her out of the water, they recover her, and the last thing she says really before she passes out is Anakin.
Yeah, and I think that's Brandon Wayne. Is that his name? Who
Brendan
usually
Wayne.
played Brendan Wayne? Yeah, who plays Din Djarin under the mask. That's cool that he got to get some more face time. I was worried he was blown up in the last episode, but looks like he survived. So that was cool.
He survived. Yeah,
that he got to participate in that. And yeah, and then everybody's freaking out that you got to see Ahsoka without her headband. I'm like, it was really good makeup. Like it's like, oh yeah, like that's what you would look like if you don't have that headband.
It's true.
And I like that attention to detail.
Yeah, it threw me off too, in a good way. I was like, oh yeah. And when she's passed out, and then Jacen knows that they got her. He can feel it. He's got the sense. And is this the moment? I think I know not yet, but there's that moment between Jacen and Hugh Yang, which is one of the funniest moments in the show thus far. But
the Jedi Starship.
The Jedi Starship, but the whole thing where he said,
"Can I train with you?" No, that part.
Can I train with you? No. You know how to build lightsabers? Yeah. You build me one? No. It's great.
That's
yeah.
Perfect.
But here's it, and the one thing that I think what works well with not having the headband for Ahsoka is it ages her a little bit, which is a good thing. It ages her a bit, and like you can tell, like she's been at this for quite a while.
Yeah. And like I said, it's cool that she emerges, and you're going to see a different Ahsoka from here on out. It's like before, and people have had near-death experiences. I knew someone, a teacher, actually, that had a near-death experience, and I remember him speaking of how before and after he just lived his life totally differently because he had this, whatever it was, whether it's just whether you believe in it, or whether you just think it's your brain firing weird synapses because you're running out of oxygen, whatever it is. People before and after, and for Ahsoka, like you just see that just spring in her step a little bit. She's smiling more because she's kind of a downer. Like the first half of the season, you're like, man, she's like, very like he's kind of sullen, and like I get it. Like that, it's kind of like Obi-Wan having to go through his trials in his show. And here you see her now, and like we're gonna call her Ahsoka the White. I'm sure internet will be for good, but I always just like to joke and say, look, that's what was in the closet, that's what she's wearing. But I do like the symbolism that now, and it's a totally, you could just see it. And I hope, and I like that she imbues that. Is that a word, imbued? I don't know. I hope that she embeds or whatever it is. I hope that she. I don't think I hope. I see it. She doesn't need the white outfit to see. You could see that she's changed by this experience.
And Hu Yang kind of briefs her on everything going down. The fact that Hera's here, Hera helped out with the squadron. Jacen was the one. She's like, oh, Jason's here. It's like, yeah, with his mom and everybody else. And she's just, and now, like you said, she's at peace more, and there's less of that kind of. It's more like, okay, I'm all good. But she asked about Sabine, obviously, and that's when they have to then locate where the hell Sabine is. So they give Ahsoka that the map, and then they have this moment where they've got to figure this out. And there's a great, nice emotional moment with Ahsoka and Jacen. And this is one of the things that I really liked about the show. Like, as much as I would love to see a full episode of just the world between worlds and all the what if scenarios that could have happened and seeing all these things. The reason why I like this a lot is because the first episode dives into that type of stuff with a lesson to be taught, but the second half is all about furthering the plot, moving it forward. Where are we going next? I saw a couple people online saying that it didn't further the plot. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like that's all that the second half was about, was furthering the plot. Where the hell is Sabine? Let's get there. The space whales, all that. The figuring out a little bit more with Jacen and his role in all of this, and the stuff with the Senate and Mon Mothma on the talking to Hera, like saying, Mon Mothma let me down this one, Smets.
Yeah. What's wrong? Don't you remember where you came from? We just watched a season where you were the one that was making throwing dinner parties for specific underhanded reasons. Like you were part of that. How do you, that's just time jades you. And this show is doing, this whole Mandoverse is doing a really good job of showing how annoying politics is, first of all, and how
Yeah.
even after we repeat our mistakes, that the galaxy hasn't learned by now that like these idiot senators, and they're like, it's never going to happen. Like, it is, and we're going to find out later. So like, and they're all going to get roasted on Hosnian Prime anyway, so they're gonna pay for their sins. But like,
I know.
it's crazy that but you'd think that Mon Mothma, that she let me down. You just wanted to hear one line from her instead of, when Obi-Wan says to Anakin, Anakin's like, why are you asking me of this? And Obi-Wan's like, the council's asking you. You just want one slight line from Mon saying like, look, this isn't me. I'm sorry, it's
pressure,
more like
pressure here. Right.
Yeah.
But but what I will say, this is what goes back to, if anybody's wondering again about whether or not she was imagining all this, whatever. Jacen, she has the conversation with Jacen. He's like, I heard the saber. So she's like, you heard that? And he's like, yeah. So showing that he's pretty powerful. And this is the moment that Hu Yang has with Jacen about, we build me a lightsaber. No, and they go off, and there you go. So then she has this whole moment. She's able to find out and exactly kind of pinpoint that Sabine is gone. Sabine
Cal Kestis' power too. That's Cal Kestis' she's able to hear those echoes of the Force through touch and movement and stuff, which is really cool.
Which is great. And they were able to set that up, and then that's when the Mon Mothma stuff happens. They have this whole phone call that she's got about it, and then when they're trying to figure out how the hell to get there before we even have this call, Ahsoka looks up into the sky and the return of the space whales.
Space whales. I was never a fan during Rebels when it first happened, but I really did like how they utilized them and how they got Ezra and Thrawn out of there to explain their absence in the original trilogy. And you know what? The craziest thing, the Mon Calamari cruisers and all of that, I just realized, and I don't know if it's by design or not, like, they look like space whales, like the ships, like the ship design. And now my headcanon is going to believe that that the legacy and the legend of these spacefaring whales is why some people like designed it, like, oh, let's design it like the Purgles. But yeah, that's really cool. And, another great, and I think you're going to get there is, obviously she's going to talk to the space whales, right? The Purgles. And it is a callback to Tales of the Jedi. She was found as a foundling at knowing the Force because she was about to die by that big creature, and she put her on Tales of Jedi. She put her hand on the nose and calmed the creature down. So of course, like, it would have been great if she threw a throwaway line and said, this is my specialty, whatever. But like, she hops on the ship and does the same thing, and I just thought it was so cool. Even if they did a flash of like a little, they'd have to hire another actress for Ahsoka, like a baby actress, but showing that that's how she found her Force in the first place.
I don't think they needed to. I think the fact that we know that happened, if you want to visit it, but it's like a nice little Easter egg. It's the fact that she's able to do these things, and it also goes to show that now she has this whole kind of clarity of the way that this worked, and she's now in the kind of light side garb, as you will, the Gandalf stuff, whatever it might be, but she just says there's no other way. We got to figure this out. We got to get to the space whales, and we've done this before. Now, this I don't remember because I haven't seen it, but she wasn't with them when Thrawn took Ezra out with or vice versa with the Purgles at the end, right? Where was she at this point?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Right.
Like, I watched the show.
There.
Yeah, she's not there though, for sure, during that last finale. So, but her trusting in that, and like, we got to see that live action is cool, right? Like, and I love the reactions of all these other, I question whether I wanted to mention it or not, because Star Wars fans are fiercely protective. But I got it was such, that last 5 minutes was so full of hope and so full of like that light side energy that it almost felt like, especially with her line of like, we could end up anywhere, and she's like, better than nowhere. Like, that is a line that like Picard or like Kirk would say at the end of like a Star Trek episode, right? Like, Star Trek was always prided itself on like, it's all about hope and exploration. And this, and I'm not saying it's just, maybe it's because of the whales too and the Voyage Home movie, but I just thought like it took some of the best parts of sci-fi that we like, and this, it was like full of hope, and she's in there and she's smiling and she's like, oh, well, who knows? I love that she doesn't know. She's not sure, but she's not afraid. She's not fearless anymore because she went through that trial. And that is just such great storytelling. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely it is. And I think that's all of this leading up to it and getting us to that point where you have another nice conversation they're seeing the space whales. they've seen them before. They've seen all the Purgles. The Purgles look really great, by the way, in the kind of live action setting. But they're going through this. They're in awe of it all, and then she knows that what she's got to do. She's got a smile on her face as she's doing it. She walks out. Thank God she's not doing space flips and stuff again. But she walks out and she sees all of them, and she knows what she's got to do. And we also get a great conversation between Jacen and Hera down the line about how the Purgles have helped. It gives a little bit more information to those people in the past of how that went down with Ezra and yeah, I thought it worked. And then obviously you have the whole entire fleet out there ready to cause some crap. And she tells Carson, don't let him come in here. And then there's another humorous moment where he just pretends he doesn't know who they are. Hilarious.
Yeah, he's great. Forgive me. Someone says even the line "far, far away," right? Is that Carson who says it?
Oh, really? Okay, I missed it.
I know there was like a Easter egg about that. Maybe in the comments you guys could remind me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was great. Like just the moments of light, and you know, it's good too. They did a good job of like rewarding fans who watched the animated series. Some religiously, some more like me, where I watched it like once or twice. So that's why I don't know every detail, right? But I've seen every piece of Star Wars media. Right. And you get rewarded for that. And then for the fans that haven't, they give you enough. They don't need to go into everything. Oh, this is Kanan Jarrus who defended the ghost ship by, you know, starting the shield around the fire. Right. Just enough, right? And just enough to get. And like you said, I feel like Carson represents for us for the layman's, like people like my wife who just needs little things like pieces there. And I think it's cool that they were able to explain that thing with Jacen and Hera right there too. Great story.
The only thing that I still have questions about is that if the last time we saw Carson before, or one of the last times we saw Carson before this show was in Mandalorian season 3 when he was hanging out with Zeb. So
yeah,
where's Zeb? How come Zeb has
Agent Callus too? Who are we gonna have the guy from Game of Thrones play Callus? Nicholas Coster-Waldau.
That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants him to play. He'd be great to play.
Oh, so great. I don't think we need Zeb though. Like I think you're gonna get him now. You need him in season 2.
Yeah.
They're going to be off in this new galaxy, and I hope we stay there. I think it would be cool, interesting storytelling device. I don't think they'll do it because I bet we keep going back to Hera. But like, if you're so far away, like the concept, like how big a galaxy is, you have to understand they are leaving all of that galaxy. They're leaving the unknown regions. Right. They're leaving the outer rim. They are going to a completely different galaxy, which they could set up a completely different thing, which goes into a theory that maybe by the end of all of this super movie and stuff like that, if you want to explain away why the rebels aren't in the sequel trilogy, there could be a thing where maybe the whales only migrate like every 30 years. And so all of our group after the events of whatever movie gets stuck there again. And curiously enough, another 30 years would happen right around when Rey has her movie. And then you can bring everyone back to the fold. And that could be how you could save them from dying in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to next week. I hope when you're in another galaxy, even in the storytelling and editing sense, it should be so far away that you don't intercut, because then it makes it feel closer. If you're like cutting a Coruscant, cutting back here, like I hope we're there until we get back.
I agree, and just the other thing on the Zeb thing though, wouldn't you, if you're Zeb, wouldn't you be pissed off though if they're like, hey, we decided that me and Sabine and Hera were gonna go look for Ezra, but we didn't let you know.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think like
he's close
just
to
hanging out. Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, but maybe we don't know. Maybe they had a falling out, or maybe he was like, "You got to move on. You got to move on." That's my bad.
Come on,
you got to move on, kid.
But you got to see that at the end of. I mean, because he's drinking at the bar with Carson, so he's not off and running around just hanging out with Callus. He's back. So it's like, why wouldn't you bring him on the mission, or at least tell him about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to keep it a little central. I know some concerns have been like, this isn't Ahsoka, this is Rebels season 8 or whatever, season 5 or whatever. But so I think that in some respects, keeping the crew a little smaller is fine. And look, you have it for next season if you bring it back.
Yeah, that's true. But all right, so then Carson can only
stall.
It's
true. I'm right on everything I say.
True, false. So Carson basically is he can only stall for so long. I mean, back to the space whales, and she jumps up. She's able to kind of find out that she communicates with the thing. It reminded me of the scene in Avatar 2, when they're able to communicate with those things. So they go in, and then Huyang trusts Ahsoka, but he's still scared about it. Let's get in this thing's mouth. And at first I'm like, hey, what about Hera? And then Hera's not taking Jacen out
Good.
there. And good move. It's a good move because I was like, okay, you know what's going to happen is she's going to go and then Thrawn's going to try to manipulate this kid and then it's going to be a bad thing. Smart move. He's not ready to travel in between galaxies. Good call, mom.
Shouldn't have even been with her on that other thing. You need to send him to daycare. Send him to daycare. Kira's not with me right now. I'm doing this show.
Right.
He needed to go to daycare. I get it though, for the story purposes, and like you said, he could have been annoying. He's not. Like
he's not.
I think the kid's great, and but I'm glad that they're not going on this next part. This next part needs to start feeling more personal, and we need to really get into Sabine, Ezra, and Thrawn, and like, man, God, I'm just so excited to see where they go. We've only seen now like 2 more shots from the trailer, so like we are large. I love that they are forcing fans to find, and me included. I watch everything, every trailer, everything. We have no idea where this is going. We have like 2 shots left. Like that is so fun.
It's a lot of fun, and then you have and the question I also have is that we've got this moment where Mon Mothma says you need Ahsoka back here to basically say, hey, this has been going down, and maybe they won't pull your rank if she's able to speak for you. Now Ahsoka's gone, however, because the Purgles are coming out and doing this thing, the captain sees the whales coming in, so she can report that she saw these space whales zip off into light speed, and that's where Ahsoka Tano is. So maybe actually talking about some kind of evidence that something happened, but I still think Hera is going to be in front of the hearing, or if you will. And I do think they're going to jump back and forth, though. I see your point, but I still think they are going to jump back and forth because otherwise you'd have to cut Mary Elizabeth Winstead out of the show, and they're not going to do that.
Yeah, and she's fantastic as Hera, by the way. But like, I never want to take food off anyone's plate. But I feel like Hera should be like, with all due respect, I don't want a part of this new republic, and she should resign. And I feel like that they let her down. Like, and I mean, constant letdowns, man. Like, we've all been in parts where like work and stuff like that, where you're just so let down by people making decisions. And so I wouldn't blame her. Like, look, if she stays, that's great, because sometimes you stay for the greater good of helping people, and she just has to deal with this nonsense. But I wouldn't blame her if she just says pieces out, because this is just it's going to get more and more corrupt. These idiots just can't prevent history from repeating itself.
Right. Well, you get the moment at the very end, which is again very Empire, where she's like, "I'm going to bring them back. I promise." She's like, "May the force be with you." It was great. And then
remember, she was just an episode ago saying, "Are you going to be prepared to do the right thing? The right thing is to destroy this map, and even if that means not bringing Ezra back." But that experience with Anakin, she's now full circle. She's saying, "I will bring her back. I bring them back. I promise," because she's back to that full light. She's trusting in the Force. She's trusting in now her abilities, and she's going to fully embrace that. And again, I get goosebumps just talking about it when I see these over things and think about it. Ahsoka was trained by the greatest Jedi of all time, and now she's going back because she wants to rescue her Padawan, who Huang himself said it is the weakest Jedi of all time. And I love that dichotomy that I don't even know that's the right word, whatever. I love that that Sabine is going to be part of this legacy line now of, Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan to Anakin to Ahsoka and now to Sabine. And to see where that goes, I wasn't a fan of everybody. Two things I wasn't a fan of early on. All of a sudden, everybody can use the Force look, I'm always one will admit when I'm wrong. When I saw George Lucas himself in a quote say that everyone could have the Force, I fine. I'm still not going to get over the fact that saber stabs are now anybody can get stabbed. No, a saber goes in you, your blood boils, it pops out of your eyeballs. It would be much more gruesome than you think, but I get it. But this one, I'm turning around on it, and I really am now excited, and I love that pairing that Sabine is part of this huge legacy of overly powerful, almost too powerful, and then these great Jedi, and to see where she goes moving beyond this episode.
I don't want to see her ever use the Force, though. I know we're going to, but I don't want to. I want it to almost be like a Donnie Yen from Rogue One.
Yeah, cool. I love that. She could be in tune.
I'd much rather that be the case than actually becoming a Jedi. I don't think it's necessary. I liked where she was. She's already a badass warrior without it. I would love to see if she's just able to she realizes it's there. Not everybody can access it, even though everybody has it. Not everybody can access it. And she's like, look, never figured that part of it out, but I know that it's around, and I know I can kind of figure some things out in the same way that Donnie Yen did. That to
Love
me,
that. I had no thoughts. Great idea. That's great.
that would be perfect. But I don't know if they're going to do that. I think that they're going to probably go with the fact she's going to have some kind of battle.
Do you
And
think the
save
last
Ezra.
scene of the series will be her? It'll be like Magneto at the end of X-Men: The Last Stand, like with the chess piece, like finally moving it.
Maybe
Like,
I'd
so
like
this
to
is
see.
popping up.
I'd like to see someone get taken out, because you're going to put some kind of tragedy on the movie in general, and some kind of threat, because Thanos was pretty devastating and the amount of chaos that he caused. Thrawn's got to cause some kind of chaos, because right now casual fans are like, okay, well, they're building this guy. Why is he such a badass? Because he's blue?
Well, here's
Like,
how you're going to find out, my friend.
Yeah.
Here's my theory and prediction. First of all, I believe that someone will not come back. I'm pretty sure it's going to be our favorite droid. I think my buddy Joe. Yeah, my buddy Joey, who has a YouTube channel called Padawan Collector. He's all about Star Wars collecting. He's a great guy. Went to school with him. He told me this theory, and it's like heartbreaking. It's like, yeah, K2SO dies. Disney loves doing it, IG-11, and that this is going to be the next one. It's like he will be the one that either maybe has to stay in the galaxy in order for everybody else to go back home or whatever. But I feel like you're asking for a sacrifice. And also, I do think that maybe that Republic fleet might, like maybe Hera convinces them to go. Like when Thrawn comes back, I think he's going to decimate those ships. Like that captain we saw, she's not living. I think that it's going to end dire. We got to end with this overall, like, holy crap, he's back. And I'm pretty sure that's going to involve those capital ships getting blown up. And I think that we have to see, like you said, Thrawn needs to show that he's so great strategically, just like in the original books and in his new books. And I think him overcoming the odds, like being outnumbered with like a lesser fleet, whether it's like a couple ships and then the Eclipse, or what's called the ring ship. Like, I think he's going to do something to where he's going to cause devastating losses for the Republic. And then imagine the guilt that Sabine will have, knowing that she's responsible. Yes, she's going to bring Ezra back, but she's going to have that guilt moving into the Filoni movie or season 2, whatever it is. If like, look at all of that. I'm the reason why this person's dead or this person's dead. And that's going to be on Ahsoka. Ahsoka to get on Sabine about like that, but you need to keep moving forward like Anakin taught her in her flashbacks.
Well, I don't think that the fleet's going to be able to get there into the other galaxy.
No, when they come back. I'm saying Thrawn comes back, and they'll be there at Cetos.
Like, whoa. Right, and then do you believe us now, morons? Right.
Yes.
That's what it's going to be, more or less. Because if you get that set up to the heir to the Empire, as they've talked about, and they're going to put out this next big war, why not? The question is, though, is there a way, and people have rumored this, and I know it would cause a lot of stink, and I don't think in a million years it'll happen, but in the world between worlds, or something along those lines, where a shift in time where the events of 7, 8, and 9 and all that stuff happen in a separate kind of verse, and this is a different timeline. That to me would be easier to do, not just because whether you like the movies or not, it's just easier to do where you don't have to start explaining where everybody is, and you can start putting things that way. And I bet you, if you never get him to say it, but I bet you if you ask Filoni, don't you wish 7, 8, and 9 didn't exist? I bet you he would say.
You think? Wow.
I bet you. Because he has the ability now to set up so much more going forward, but he's hindered. He's hindered once you get to like another 20, 30 year spot. You're hindered because once you get to, you got to do the First Order now, and then you got to do another. You got to Star Killer base, and you got to do all this stuff, and it's like you got to. He's already had to set towards the Palpatine clones and all that. So
think about it. You're talking. There are people that like the sequel trilogy, right? And like, you're right. Like, it has its detractors, but like, I mean, imagine the Filoni flex if it was real Clone Wars Anakin. That got sucked into the world between worlds, and then Ahsoka like stopped him from doing Order 66, and then they rebooted everything. Then you'd have a new series with good light side Anakin, no original trilogy, and you just venture off that way. Like, people would lose their mind. So I don't think you're going to want to alienate.
No, but it would be a way to do. What I will say is this: there was rumors that Star Wars was going to do a What If series, right?
I love that.
Now, everybody thought about it automatically, especially with Filoni's past, that animated would be the way to go. But what if they did a What If like this? What if they did a What If series it would be way more expensive, obviously. But what if they did a what if series with the same way that they did it for this, with, as you were mentioning before, with the type of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka together, or whatever it might be, a couple of what if storylines, people would lose their minds in those types of things. But there's just so much that they're working on already that it's purely speculation, Smash. Purely speculation.
Yeah. Well, I definitely really enjoyed that episode, and I was so happy for Hayden and everyone. And it's just a great time to be a Star Wars fan. Whether you like these movies or the shows, or you like Disney, it's like I like it all, and I'm not toxic about it. You can not like things, and I totally understand why. I've always been that way. We all have our own. I mean, coming from editing, like, everything's subjective. Like, I turn in my cut, someone might not like a cue or a music cue that I use, and I got to change it. I like it, but it's not. I got to get it past QR or whatever, So.
Yep. Well, look, we did it, Smash. We talked about this episode. It was a longer episode, but it was a necessary longer. This was a lot of fun. You can be seen in a lot of different places talking about this episode. Where can you be found?
Well, before I get to that, I will want to say this. You have merch still, right? You sell merch. So I do these shows. Look, I'm a Star Wars floozy right now. I'm on a bunch of shows this week talking about this episode. But I wanted to come on here also because I am a cancer survivor. I'm in remission. I had a couple scares, but I am now continue to be in remission. When I got checked, I was 42 years old, and that's the age that Chadwick Boseman was when he got. I think he was 41. And it didn't go, obviously, I'm in remission, and it was different and outcome for him. But I just want to remind everyone, if you have any symptoms or anything, I had colon cancer. If you have any symptoms in the bathroom, if you're ever worried about anything, and without getting into too many details, don't hesitate. Message me, tweet me, whatever you need to do. And if you have any thoughts about it, I would say, I know they say 45 is the year to get your colonoscopy. Well, I did that at 40. If I did that at 45, I wouldn't be here today. If I waited, I would be dead right now. So anybody who gets a colonoscopy between now and the end of the year, take a picture of you. I don't want a picture of your colon, just a picture of you on your hospital bed or whatever, saying, I'm going to get a colonoscopy. Tag myself, tag Kristian. I'll buy you your choice of merch at his store. That's true. I mean, I know you're getting almost 100,000 followers now, so I might go broke doing this, but it's just for me. I want to make sure people get out there. So you go out there, you get your colonoscopy. If you have any symptoms, if your doctor doesn't want to give you a colonoscopy, even just lie and say you have symptoms. They can't say no to you then, or say that you have a history of family. Just get your literal butt in there and get that oncology. But yeah, you could find me on Scoundrels Inc. You could find me on The Jedi Way with John Roca and Laura Kelly, and Scoundrels Inc. with Frank and Brandon and sometimes Sean. And yeah, they're two different type of Star Wars shows, obviously. And I love being on both. They've been very supportive of me too. I've been going through these cancer things. And obviously I love coming on this show, and I love the Sith Council fans. I love Kristian. And yeah, and then also my Revan stuff, my KOTOR trilogy stuff. If you just search KOTOR trilogy on YouTube, or if you type in revantrilogy.com, it'll send you there. I actually finally did a combined all of my movies in one video, including the Mandalorian's prequel, because I just wanted it out there. It would be easy for one person to watch. It's like 7 hours. We did a live premiere last week. It's already over like 7,000 or 8,000 views, like in a couple days, which, look, it's not viral by any means, but for something that came out in 2003 and I'm making movies about it and it still gets those kind of numbers, I'm happy with it. So yeah, but yeah, to your Sith Council fans, anyone who gets a colonoscopy, tweet at me. I don't want pictures of your colon. I don't need any of that. Just send me a picture of you in the hospital bed, thumbs up, and send it to me and Kristian, and I'll buy you a merch of your choice on the store.
Very kind of Kevin Smets, and I will say that outro was longer than this episode. So, but it was a nice outro, and it was a very generous outro. So Kevin Smets, ladies and gentlemen, for the Sith Council, for Big Thing, thank you for joining us here today on the show. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you have not done that already. As Kevin mentioned, we are rapidly approaching 100,000, and we need you guys to do it. Now, I have a lot of other Ahsoka stuff on here. I have other short form stuff. If you're a fan of One Piece, I've been doing watch alongs to One Piece. You can check that out. That's on the channel as well. Short form, really short form, long form podcasts, all of it. Be a part of the crew. Thanks for joining us. And for Kevin Smets, I'm me, you're you. See you next time.